Imagine reaching retirement. You finally have enough money. No alarms, no meetings, no deadlines. For decades, this has been the dream. Work hard, save consistently, retire, be happy. It's a simple formula, one that millions of people have organized their entire lives around. But what if the formula is incomplete? What if retirement isn't actually the goal? What if we've spent decades chasing something we never fully questioned? Because when you look closely, retirement may be one of the strangest ideas modern society has ever created. Think about it. For most of human history, retirement didn't exist. Farmers didn't retire. Craftsmen didn't retire. Merchants didn't retire. People worked for as long as they could contribute. The concept of retirement as we know it today is surprisingly new. It emerged during the industrial age. Factories needed workers, governments needed systems, large populations needed structure, and retirement became part of that structure. The idea was simple: work for 40 years, step aside, allow younger generations to replace you. At the time, it made sense. Life expectancy was lower. Many jobs were physically demanding. A factory worker who spent decades lifting, carrying, and operating machinery often couldn't continue indefinitely. Retirement was a practical solution, but something interesting happened. The solution gradually became a dream. Over time, retirement stopped being viewed as the final chapter of a career. It became the ultimate reward, the finish line, the destination, the point where life would finally begin. And that's where the illusion starts. Because hidden inside this idea is a strange assumption, the assumption that the best part of life comes after work. Think about that for a moment. If someone spends 40 years waiting for life to begin, what does that say about the 40 years that came before it? Imagine reading a book where the author tells you that the first 80% is something you simply need to endure before reaching the good part. Most people would put the book down immediately. Yet many people quietly accept this idea when it comes to their own lives. Work now, live later, sacrifice now, enjoy later, wait now, freedom later. The problem isn't that retirement is bad. The problem is that many people have confused retirement with freedom. And they are not the same thing. Because when people talk about retirement, what they're usually describing isn't the desire to stop working. It's the desire to stop doing work they don't enjoy. It's the desire to control their own time, to wake up without obligation, to choose how their days are spent, to say no. In other words, what they're really seeking is autonomy, not retirement, autonomy. And that's a very different goal, because if autonomy is the goal, then perhaps the question isn't, how much money do I need to retire? Perhaps the better question is, how can I build a life that I don't constantly want to escape from? This distinction matters more than it appears, because something fascinating often happens when people retire. Many assume happiness automatically follows. After all, the stress is gone, the schedules disappear, the responsibilities decrease. But reality is often more complicated. Researchers studying retirement have found that financial preparation is only one part of the equation. Many people prepare their portfolios. Very few prepare their identities. For decades, work provides structure, routine, social interaction, goals, challenges, a sense of progress. Then one day, much of it disappears. And suddenly, a question emerges. Now what? This isn't a financial problem, it's a human problem. Psychologists have repeatedly found that meaning and purpose play a major role in well-being. People need reasons to get up in the morning. They need goals. They need contribution. They need connection. Money can create opportunities, but money cannot create purpose. And this is where many retirement plans quietly fail. Not because the numbers were wrong, but because the assumptions were wrong. The assumption was that freedom means doing nothing. Yet most fulfilled people aren't trying to do nothing. They're trying to do something meaningful on their own terms. Look at many successful entrepreneurs, artists, scientists, and creators. A surprising number continue working long after they become financially independent. Not because they need the money, because they enjoy the process, because they find meaning in the work itself, because contribution is part of being human. This creates an interesting paradox. The wealthiest people are often not the people who stop working. They're the people who gain the ability to choose their work. That's real freedom. Not escaping responsibility, choosing responsibility, not eliminating effort, directing effort, not avoiding work, owning your relationship with work. And perhaps this changes how we think about wealth entirely. Maybe wealth isn't the ability to stop working forever. Maybe wealth is the ability to spend your time the way you want, to work because you choose to, not because you have to take a month off without fear, to spend more time with family, to pursue projects that matter, to say yes when you want to and no when you don't. That kind of freedom doesn't necessarily begin at 65. It can begin much earlier, little by little, decision by decision, investment by investment. Which brings us back to the original dream, retirement. Perhaps retirement itself was never the destination. Perhaps it was simply the closest word society could find for something deeper: freedom, control, autonomy, meaning. And if that's true, then the goal changes. The goal isn't to survive 40 years and finally start living. The goal is to gradually build a life that feels worth living along the way. Because maybe the wealthiest person isn't the one who retires first. Maybe it's the person who never needs to escape their life in the first place. The person who built a life they enjoy, work they value, relationships they cherish, and enough financial security to protect all of it. Because if you spend decades building a life you can't wait to leave, perhaps the problem was never retirement. Perhaps the problem was the life that came before it. And that may be the greatest financial lesson of all. And perhaps that's the real illusion, not retirement itself, but the belief that life begins after it. Because wealth was never just about accumulating money. It was about creating options, creating freedom, creating the ability to spend your time on what matters most. And maybe that's the question worth thinking about after this video. If money could no longer be the excuse, how would you actually choose to spend your days? What would you build? What would you learn? Who would you spend more time with? And what kind of life would be worth never wanting to retire from? These are the questions we'll continue exploring here on the engineering of investing. Not just how to make more money, but how money shapes our decisions, our behavior, our freedom, and ultimately the lives we build. If you enjoyed this video and want more thoughtful perspectives on investing, wealth, psychology, and the hidden systems that influence our financial lives, consider subscribing to the channel. Because understanding money is important, but understanding how money influences human behavior may be even more valuable. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.